No farmer would ever be satisfied with initial growth killed off before harvest. If the soil in any portion of his field produced that result, he'd never plant there again. A crop that didn't last all the way to harvest was a financial disaster. The response wouldn't be a shrug and an, "Oh well." It would be more akin to sackcloth and ashes. I realize that most scholars see the soil in this parable as representing the condition of individual hearts, and I agree. But the underlying principles are not only true for individuals, they are also true for the ministry of a local church. I also realize that this passage could easily springboard us into a centuries-old debate about eternal security. But that's not my point, or within the scope of this book. Wherever you personally land on that one, the question of the day remains the same. What does Jesus' parable about the four soils have to say about the way we do church? To my thinking, it says a lot. And one of the most important things to say about our churches is that stickiness matters. The purpose of this book. Don't take what I've said to mean that I'm against trying to open the front door wider. I'm not. I'd like to open it as wide as possible. It's just that I've learned that if left alone, the back door never closes itself. We have to intentionally slam it shut. In the following pages, we'll explore how to do that. We'll see what makes a church sticky, from its values and priorities to its structures, programs, and practices. In particular, we'll look in depth at sermon-based small groups, a lecture lab model for studying the weekend sermon in depth during the week. We'll see how they work. We'll explain why they have the power to make your church especially sticky. And we'll discover why so many of the traditional small group models we've tried in the past sound great, but don't work all that well in real life. My goal is to provide you with a working model that you can adopt and change until it's ready to be put into play in your unique ministry setting. I've deliberately written in a conversational tone. I hope you'll feel like we're hanging out, discussing the ins and outs of ministry, sipping a latte at our favorite gathering place. I'll tell you my story. You decide what works for you and what doesn't. Much of this story will be told through the lens of North Coast Church, located in a suburb north of San Diego. Since 1980, I've had the privilege of pastoring an amazing group of people who've been willing to innovate, but also, perhaps more important, abandon programs and traditions that no longer work. That means that these insights, programs, and principles have all been hammered out on the anvil of local church ministry, not only at North Coast Church, but also in many churches that have already adopted their own version of sermon-based small groups. And unlike many books on ministry, this isn't the result of a rush to publish. It's not about the newest, next big thing. It's not based on an unproven track record of 2 or 3 years. It's the result of decades of successes, failures, refinements, and mid-course corrections. Even more important, these principles scale. They, and the sermon-based small group model, worked just as well when we were a small church of less than 200 adults as they do today in a multi-site megachurch with more than 7,000 in weekend attendance. They've also proven to be transferable to a wide array of theological, denominational, and cultural backgrounds. They've helped close the back door in small, large, rural, suburban, and urban churches, as well as edgy churches and traditional churches. The reason is quite simple. The need for stickiness is universal. The details of how we get there will vary from ministry to ministry, but the broad brush principles are strikingly similar in every situation. Here's an interesting scenario for you to ponder. Imagine 2 churches that each grew in attendance from 250 people to 500 over a 10-year period. Church A has a revolving door. It loses 7 people for every 10 it adds. To reach 500, it will have to add 834 new members or attenders. Church B